watching, and maybe some of you are too, and kind of seeing the monks from Fort Worth, Texas, walk 102 days, 2,300 miles, greeting people, speaking to people, and promoting peace. And one of the things that I thought was rather interesting was that people were, when it was such bad weather, right? People were like they were going to hole up, right? Some of us probably thought they're going to hole up in a hotel, you know what I mean? But no, they walked every day. They were careful. They walked, and it's kind of like that's the kind of commitment, I guess, that they make and that we can make to kind of remembering. It's a mind, body, spirit kind of connection. I was most taken. I saw, and I can't find it again, and so I heard it once. So, but it was very interesting when they got to Washington. The lead monk spoke to people and said, "Listen, you got to put down your phones." And he said, "This is what you do. You get up in the morning, and the first thing you do is you make your bed. Just make your bed. Go to that, go into the bathroom, do what you need to do. And when you're done with that, take out a piece of paper and write, 'This is my peaceful day.'" Because he said, all of those things, and this is where I wish that I could find this thing again, is that they, so by the action, not picking up your phone, but making your bed, the action of just kind of taking care of what you are communicating with your body, this connection, and then specifically writing it down. You are really kind of using all of those to be centered in this place where you can be calm. So Liz is going to tell us more about that. She is an RYT 500 yoga teacher. Anyway, she's if you look at her website, she started learning about yoga when she was 60. Which means we're never too old to kind of make the changes that we need to do. I have made my bed for the last 3 days. First thing. I have written it down. This is my peaceful day. I think it's helping me. I really do. So anyway, yoga is, most importantly, a process of deepening your connection to the people you love, your joy in the world you live in, and developing a more conscious and loving relationship with yourself. And that's from Liz's website. So I'm just going to tell us.
Okay, here I come. I have a few notes and my glasses. I know this looks ridiculous, but don't be bad. Well, thank you for quoting my website and my
We have a volunteer fire department.
And right now our dog is at home howling, right too. He's got it right on key.
I'll just wait.
Sorry about this.
And next, my phone is going to come to a message saying that my husband, Steven, who's part of the fire department, is responding to whatever this is.
This is not a drill. This is the real thing.
This is something.
Oh, yeah.
This is not, no, this is something.
This is
And realistically, I will just say, realistically, it's probably an activated alarm and an Airbnb. They make, you know what I mean? Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, like bacon slipping.
We could light a candle.
Light a candle, that's not emergency. Go ahead.
I'm gonna light a candle. And I'll tell you what in a minute.
Thanks, Liz.
Savor the moment, folks. It's all you've got. Just wait till the silence stops. This is a good example of how to exhale. Okay. Slow release of what's no longer needed. So, very nice. Am I speaking loudly enough?
Now you are.
Now you will, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So I light a candle to thank you and the horses that be for allowing me to come to your sangha, your community of practice. In yoga, it's a sangha. It's so important to belong to a community of practice. It's a fundamental Buddhist principle also that you share in your journey. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody believes the same thing or, but you share in your practice. So I did look up the Unitarian Universalist principles, not like think, oh, I know what they're all about because I know a lot of Unitarians. And you at the beginning here basically stated the principles of practice, so I don't need to read them to you. They're very yogic. They're very yogic. So I thought I had two thoughts on the way here. One is what yoga does for me in terms of an image or metaphor. I had it on my website long ago. I have found that yoga is a wind that can fill any sail. That's my metaphor. That it invigorates, enlightens, and moves forward any agenda that's aligned with the principles of the perennial philosophy, I guess, is one reference to of care for each other, care of our home, our planet, our world, and surrender to the divine principle, which is very vague, but an acceptance of the idea or the feeling, the lived experience that we do not control everything. We are not the boss of the world. And I think that's a good way to put it, because you don't have to believe in God or any particular theology or concept to have an understanding that we are not the boss of the world. And if that is if we can just leave it at that in this group of Unitarians, that is something, a shared understanding. Is that, I'm asking you guys questions. Is that appropriate for this group? That we are not all that there is. We don't control everything. We're not the top, the apex of being.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not hearing any argument.
Okay, right. Okay, very good. So,
Somebody gets intuitively obvious.
not to everybody.
Not to everybody, you're right.
So, just kind of basics. And then the other idea was, all right, I'm going to tell you my personal experience. How did I come to study formally and deeply the practice of yoga? And I am a registered Yoga Alliance 500-hour trained yoga teacher and a certified yoga therapist and a level 2 iRest meditation teacher. So that's my paperwork. And I invested a lot of time and thought and care in my studies. So how did I come to do that and why? So my personal path to yoga began as a teenager in my grandmother's bedroom in Arkansas one summer, and I was a teenager with a book. And I opened my little book and I said, oh, yoga. And I started doing postures and sitting, trying to sit quietly. And I found it as most like 15-year-olds would, like, oh, this is so cool, but I'm tired of it. So, I did that for a little bit. Then move ahead to 17 or 18 in my National Merit Scholarship Competition essay. My essay was about being, how did I put it? I didn't win the scholarship. About how I was becoming in an ever-present way. I wrote it the evening before it was due, and I was in my living room, like at midnight, saying, what am I going to do? What do I want to say? So I basically wrote a essay about being here now, being present, and every moment unfolds something new if you're open to it. Didn't get the scholarship. Whatever. Then yoga tourist between like 1983 and 2010, where I attended yoga classes here, yoga classes there, in the back of the room, different schools of yoga, trying to do the postural one. That's what I thought yoga was. It was posture. And somehow in doing these postures and sitting while somebody chanted or the candles were lit, that something would happen. Nothing really happened. At 60, I went to a workshop at Omega that was led by Gary Kraftso, who is the founder and director of the American Viniyoga Institute. He studied with Desikachar, who was the son and student of Krishnamacharya, which was the carrier of a lineage, traditional lineage in India. And he had a workshop on stress in the workplace. And I was working with adult learners who are unemployed, and I thought, these are stressed people. And part of their stress is they're not in the workplace. So let me see what yoga might offer them. Not thinking I'm going to teach yoga, but, oh, maybe I can help my students to be able to deal with their situation more calmly, more consciously, more successfully. And at that training, Gary, who became my teacher, I signed up for his training program. He talks a mile a minute, first of all, and he had slides. He had a PowerPoint. But okay, so I was trying to capture from his PowerPoint and his rapid monologue, what could I take back to the students I wanted to help? And in this pattern, he says, well, when I was 19, I went to India and I didn't, I studied and blah, 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 blah. And then my teacher told me, Gary, yoga is preparation for the moment of death. And then, instead of me, I thought, what did he just say? What? I see frowns. I was like, what is that? I thought it was like, and so I said, Gary, what does that mean? And he said, well, the tradition is that in this life, we process our karma, we create new karma, and we prepare for the next iteration of our being, preparation for the moment of death. And I said, now that's interesting. That is more interesting than any posture I have ever had, or any chant, or anything. And on the spot, I signed up to study yoga as a serious student because I want to find out what that means. So my yoga tourism ended, and my yoga residency began in my studies. And that was 4 years of study with Gary and the American Viniyoga Institute, and then I came out of that with my credentials and my training. So my current professional practice is I teach one weekly class at Damascus Community Center. I have a monthly online yoga guided meditation, and I do private sessions with individuals to help them develop personal practice, as well as therapeutic sessions for people with conditions where yoga might be useful in some aspect. And I studied anatomy, physiology. We studied chanting. We studied the history of yoga. We studied psychology. We studied meditation, pranayama, breath work, all those things. And throughout all that training, this question of what does it mean, preparation for the moment of death? I held that as mine. If this helps me understand what it means to be mortal, great, I'm in. And so what did I learn? I learned that the study of yoga is like any great practice, never ending. You don't ever reach the bottom of it. You don't ever complete your study. And in my application for that training, I said I'm a good teacher, and I am a good yoga teacher. I will say that, but I'm an excellent student, and that's what I said. That's my recommendation for you letting me study with you, and that the study is endless. And I also learned that I believe any teacher, the teacher is the best student. The teacher has to be the good student because you study with your sangha, your class. Rather, you bring material that you are trying to understand and to continue your studies, and people study with you. That's what I learned about what I believe to teach yoga is to study more intensely because you have invited others to study with you. And I also learned that there is much that is called yoga that is not yogic. And there is much in the world that is never considered yogic or yoga, but it is yogic. And that has become a lens I look through. So when I say what is yogic and what isn't yogic, there are guidelines. And the Sutras of Patanjali, which you may have heard of, read. Anybody know that body of work? Yes, no? Okay. It's a very small guidebook to the study of yoga. Patanjali may or may not have been an individual. The Sutras of Patanjali were probably written around, I have the date. Not that it matters. Oh, between the 2nd and 5th century Christian era, or between the 2nd and 5th century. And they have become the standard guidebook or navigational tool for people that study the principles of yoga, which are derived from the ancient Vedic texts, the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, all embody and discuss yoga. And these sutras are kind of a distillation of those teachings. So I would say if you want to learn more about the foundation of yoga, the roots from which the many branches of the yoga experience have sprung, the many kinds of yoga, the hot yoga, kundalini yoga, the Iyengar yoga, the teachings of Iyengar, and goat yoga, gun yoga. I mean, there are so many different angles and innovations, we'll call them, or derivations or deviations from the fundamental teachings. But the fundamental teachings, there are some. And I brought, rather than encapsulating them all in my own language, I brought a selection of those sutras, and I will read them to you. And I think what you'll recognize is a lot that is familiar to you from your own practice as Unitarians. So the sutras are short aphorisms, and they are meant to remind you of larger principles. And in the way I was taught, we would chant them in Sanskrit, and then we would discuss them. And my understanding is over the 100 years of Krishnamacharya's life, he returned to the study of the sutras many times, not one and done. It's not like the driver's manual. You read it, you get your license, and you're done. So the first sutra in the first book, there are like 196 sutras, very short sayings. Now the study of yoga begins. Okay, now means right now. It means every right now. It means right now we're studying yoga. This is now. It begins now. And every time you turn your attention to the study of the integration of mind, body, and spirit, and your practice, it begins now. I think that's so cool. ever present. The study is ever present. Yoga is the ability to direct and focus mental activity. With the attainment of a focused mind, the inner being, the divine within, establishes itself in all its reality. These two sutras, if you know Satyananda, Maharishi Satyananda, he has Yogaville down in Virginia. It's an ashram and a study place, and he was one of the real powerhouses to bring yoga to the West. And he has a translation of the sutras. It's really wonderful. It's very down to earth. He has many stories that illustrate the sutras, much in the way Jesus has parables to talk about relationship with God and what our work is on earth. And very readable, and he has a wonderful sense of humor. And he says that these two sutras, the ability to direct and focus mental activity, and with the attainment of that, you discover this space, Laura, that you refer to, this place of calm, centered serenity from which you can operate in a world of chaos and hurt. And Satchidananda says, these two sutras are the foundation for the study of yoga. Find that center. How do you do it? Control over the mind's fluctuations. That would be the scrolling, the daily nattering about other people, the worrying about how's my hair look. I did worry about it today. I mean, I'm not beyond that, of course. But controlling all that, the whirlings of the mind, comes from dedicated, serious, and respectful practice and non-attachment to the results over a long and uninterrupted period of time. And that is the disciplined practice that you referred to, Lauren. That it's not, again, you don't read the sutras and say, got it, understand that, and then be unchanged. That practices every day, all the time, to focus your mind on what you feel is most illuminating and important, and to be unattached to the results, meaning if you stumble in your practice of kindness and remembering to smile, if you say unkind words, then you simply pick up again your practice. You continue to practice. It's never over. You never fail. You simply stumble and get up and continue over a long period of time, uninterrupted practice without attachment to results. That also means that as we, in this world, do our good work, what we understand to be good work, that if we don't see, in my case, my adult students saying, oh, you gave me this tool, you taught me this thing, now thank you, I'm ready to go and show up to work on time and not lose my temper over small things, that now I'm great, and they go on to succeed in an aspect of their life that if you don't see it happen, you do your practice, which is to continue to put out good work, to continue to encourage people, to continue to be kind. That your belief in the right of your actions is not based on seeing the results immediately. That's a key practice in your physical practice of yoga as well. If you were to come because you thought it would repair an injured knee or an aching back, and you find that after 8 weeks of doing yoga practice in your class, your back still hurts, either your teacher is not very good or you are impatient for results. So find a better teacher, determine whether you think the path is correct, and stay on the path. Don't quit too early. Fundamental teaching from yoga. The mind becomes quiet when it cultivates friendliness in the presence of happiness, joy in the presence of virtue, compassion in the presence of suffering, and indifference toward error. For me, this is a key sutra. Friendliness in the presence of happiness, not covetousness, not wanting what others have. Oh, that makes you happy. Oh, I want that too. Joy in the presence of virtue, celebrating good works, compassion in the presence of suffering. And this one maybe is the one that is kind of the sticking point: indifference toward error, non-judgment, non-attachment. That one's hard, I think. But that's one of the key principles of being totally integrated in your practice of compassion and what else would I say? Loving kindness. Loving kindness doesn't judge. And there's a verse or two in Corinthians about that. Okay, and then there's a whole list of suggestions about how to achieve success in your practice, how to find calm, find joy, being. And it's very much aligns, I would say, with the Unitarian idea of there are many paths. It says, well, you can try this, you can try that. You can try being part of a sangha. You can try meditation. You can try physical practices that calm the body so the mind can calm down. The purpose of asana is not to be able to do the most difficult poses. The purpose of asana, the postural practice, in the tradition, is to calm the body so you can become still in your body, in your frame, your structure, your physiology, your cognition. You can still the body, and then you can still the mind. So it's preparation for meditation. And there are other suggestions. Hang out with people that that practice something that is attractive to you. You say, they've got something I like that I feel comfortable. This is they have a way of doing that I would like to learn. Go be with them. Read the works, read the scriptures, or read the writers that illuminate you and make you feel you are calm. You can be calm. You can be focused. That's a direction you want to go. So in yoga now, it doesn't mean you have to do. Yoga isn't about the postures. It's about being focused and calm in your being and being more integrated as a person. And from that position, you can then be open to the divine. That's the teaching. One of my favorite sutras is focus on the divine light within, the light beyond sorrow. So much of yoga as a practice is finding a way to deal with sorrow, suffering. It's as Buddhism is, the teachings of Buddhism, and to move beyond that to a greater sense of self than just the suffering of this world. So the practice is based on self-reflection, refinement through practice, study of sacred texts or meaningful texts, whatever works for you, really, and surrendering the fruits of action, not being attached to attaining fame or fortune or even recognition for what you do. That you send forth your goodness, and that's what you do, and you don't wait for the acknowledgement to come back. Don't get hung up on that. That's hard. And the intent to diminish the causes of suffering with practice. The suffering is all a result of ignorance, not evil. It's ignorance, a lack of understanding. So I see that's also that's a kind of a Unitarian principle that people are not evil. Unitarians don't study evil as a fundamental principle. Do I understand that correctly?
I think that that's true, and
That it's not about finding out, what's evil is over there and I'm going to stand over here, but looking for goodness and rejecting goodness. Very yogic, the Unitarians. Here's another nice point. The yamas and the niyamas, again, teachings in the sutras, are basically like the Ten Commandments, but they don't require a theology or a God. Yoga is not a religion. It is a spiritual or spiritualizing practice but there's no dogma. There are guidelines. So the guidelines are nonviolence, truth, be honest, moderation. In the text, it's often translated as continence and abstinence from everything, but if that's not realistic, then be moderate. And non-covetousness. Personal principles of positive action are purity, refinement, refine yourself, refine your passions, refine your study. The word tapas in Sanskrit means to cook. So you refine by what is it? You create a when you cook, you render something down to its essence. You make a what is it? Yes, a reduction. Thank you. And contentment, practice contentment, long only for what you have. And the self-discipline and the study of this, again, of the sacred texts. And the worship of God, whatever that means. Whatever that means. I believe what it means is surrender again to the idea that there are principles and a spaciousness of being that is beyond thought and bigger than our small lives. And we are a part of it. And you can call it what you will. And I think you'll find that in the Bhagavad Gita, and you'll find it in the Upanishads, that are the mystical texts, the insights of the mystics of the Vedic period. And I just recommend those readings. I mean, if you're really interested in yoga, I just have my little piece of my studies, but invest some time in reading those texts. There's some really great translations, and if you know what I can do is I can just send some recommended reading to you, Tom, and you can share it with your group.
Sure.
Because that's where the real inspiration is. When harassed by doubt, cultivate the opposite mental attitude. Reframe. That's a very contemporary concept. That's part of practice. If you start sinking into despair and anger about, our current times, very trying times, cultivate the opposite mental attitude. Find somewhere to project the world, be the change you want to see. Get busy. Go there. Put the phone down. Thank you, Monk in Washington, for saying, don't go there. Don't go there. Come to your center and project goodness, loving kindness, and compassion. That's the teaching of yoga. Nowhere, only one place in the Yoga Sutras does it talk about posture practice, asana. It just says find a quiet place on a deer skin or some soft surface and meditate. That's it. That's the postural practice in the Yoga Sutras. That's the teaching. And practice breath control to calm your system and bring yourself to stillness. All the rest of it, all the postural stuff, what is it for? Because if you come to my class, we do postures. So what have I learned? After being in many classes where I would look under my arm and between my legs and say, what in the world are they doing? I don't even know that. What is that? What are they calling that? I don't know the Sanskrit. I can't do that thing. I can't put my leg there. Posture practice, and this is more a belief than, is that when you practice the postures, you are present in your body, and it is a form of meditation. It is a form of becoming whole and accepting whatever is going on in that moment. The American Viniyoga Institute teaches Viniyoga, and this is a traditional approach where the practice is about each individual. You're not adhering to a template shown to you by your gymnastically trained yoga teacher who is hyper flexible and 20 years old. I think this is a great misconception. That's all beautiful, and go do that. Go do that if it works for you. But that's not the core of yoga. The heart of yoga is being present in the body you have and finding all its range and loving it for what it is. And if you can make that body stronger, physiologically more healthy, cognitively clearer, more focused emotionally, more stable, and grounded. That's what this work is for, the posture and the breath work. If you come to my class, that's what we're doing. So and another thing I've learned and believe is yoga is for everybody, not the young and the flexible alone. So I think it's really, really important. There's so much. And now I'm, if I'm a soapbox, I would stand up. Now here's what I'm going to say. There is so much in yoga in the West that is not yogic. And now I'm just I'm on my box, my soapbox. So as you study, if you choose to, or do go to yoga classes, if you do, be mindful that this whole experience is about you, not your teacher, not what they can do. What do you feel in your body, and how do you come home to yourself? And if that's not the experience, part of your experience in your yoga class, I suggest that you're missing the heart of yoga. What else does Patanjali say? Oh, all he says about, as Sutra, in the second book, Sutra 46, the posture is firm and soft. It has strength and ease, finding strength and ease. That combination of structural, emotional stamina and ease. And I would say tenderness. Tenderness. If you are not finding that in your practice, if you do physical practice, you're missing the heart of yoga. And I didn't make that up. It's in the sutras, which is the guidebook. Just sharing it. Okay. So the sutras are many, and I've just shared a few that really are meaningful to me in my teaching and my practice, and that I think really bring home the idea that yoga is for everybody, and that so much of what's commercially presented is perhaps a distraction from the development of wholeness as a human being. And do any of you go to yoga class? Any class somewhere? Good. Because part of going to a class is if you take yourself in with the idea that this is about you, and it's not just about being flexible and strong enough to, hold a handstand or headstand or whatever, but it's about your development as a whole person, then that's what you'll look for. And that will be the heart of yoga for you. So that was my lecture about how most of our Western mainstream practices seem to be an obsessive focus on the material. So perhaps this is reassuring to some people and makes yoga more interesting to others, and perhaps it will help you in your own practice if you go to a class. The great deal of my experience, which is in this world about what is yoga but not called yoga, that has to do, I believe, with our interactions with each other every day and our interactions with ourselves. That we don't call it yoga because it hasn't been marketed to us as yoga, but it is. And there are all kinds of things that when you listen to people or you meet them and you realize that you're having this feeling of deep respect, connection, they reveal something to you that is a teaching to you about being whole and being content, not in the sense of being passive and sleepy about your life, but being accepting what you have and honoring it and moving on from there. When you have those experiences, that's yoga. That's yoga too. I wanted to say that my upbringing was in the Christian teaching and traditions, and when I had my first communion, I thought something would happen, like the wine, the little wafer, the thing. I studied 3 years of catechism, for Pete's sake, to get my experience, and go to the communion rail and thought, oh, God's, this is the blood of Christ, this is the body of Christ, it's going to be something amazing, and it wasn't. I turned around and the people in the congregation, here we are, the first communion for us, like this. I was going to join the Sangha, and people were like, I was like, oh, this is just this is nothing. It was very disappointing. But in terms of what I've learned, is that Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, the example of Jesus, for me, he's a great yogi. My yoga is also going back to what I learned in church, not about how boring communion is or how Sunday school you forget all of it, but the basic idea of love your neighbor and don't judge. And I was taught that very early on. And I find that yoga does not contradict my Christian upbringing or my deviation from my Christian upbringing or any other religious practice. And this is often a conversation about it's a religion, and I can't do yoga, I can't chant sutras because that's going against my religion. And I just want to share with you that it is not a religion. It is a spiritualizing practice that you apply to whatever your core beliefs or your teachings are, and see how it supports you. It's an important point for some people. Let's see, what else do I want to say? So many things that I thought would be important, but they're not. I think that's it. Yeah, my personal experience, what I've learned, what I practice. I believe yoga is for everybody. Anyone can benefit from some portion of the practice, whether it's strengthening their body, strengthening their commitment to loving kindness and non-judgment, or just helping them believe that it's worth the time for them to be quiet for a little bit and just sit and let them be. And if you have questions, I hope I can answer them. Yeah.
I don't know Sanskrit, but it's my understanding that word yoga is related to the English word yoke.
Yeah, you can go online, and there are many explanations about Sanskrit, your yoke or union, and the etymology is complicated because in Sanskrit, apparently, and I'm not a scholar, of course not, but that Sanskrit words can have many, many meanings. One word can be applied in many, many contexts. So the key idea is completion, union with the divine, which means connection with that you're part of everything, and to experience that, not to have it as an intellectual construct, but to feel you are truly a part of everything. You are immersed, embedded in, and your individual self is only a small part of your experience of being. That's the sense of union that I understand. Not just hooked into some sort of dynamic, but the teaching is that we are an expression of I keep using the word divine, but a being that is beyond our comprehension. And the only way to fully be that experience is to become still and find it in meditation, to look within. So
my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
No, no, that I know who said that, but no, the idea of union is to and this is part of the teaching in the sutras and the Bhagavad Gita in particular. It's very well articulated that the self, Liz Huntington, my teacher would say, this is compost, don't get too attached, is just this vessel of the expression of that which cannot be known by the mind. We are a part and connected. Like Jung said, bidden or unbidden, God is present. You would say, invited or not, you're connected to everything. Believe it or not, but you are. And that experience of letting go of the small concerns and sufferings of the small mortal individual I is available to you through serious dedicated practice without ceasing over a long period of time. And in the yoga teachings, the fundamental traditional teachings, it means many lifetimes. But this is not all there is. That's the fundamental teaching. And if you're really wedded to this, it may not be interesting to you to look further. But if you are interested in what might be beyond our small individual I, little s self, the teachings of yoga and the practices open those doors. Anything else?
Sharon has a question.
Oh,
You had mentioned something, and I don't have it exactly right, but it was something like that. Some people think they have reached not nirvana. You didn't use that word, and they haven't, and some people have, and they don't know it. So you said something like that. Do you recall saying something like that? That's what I thought I heard, and maybe I didn't hear it properly. That some people think they get there, and and others don't even know that they have gotten there, or certainly on that path.
that some things that are called yogic really don't seem to be too yogic, and other things that you'd never call yogic actually are very yogic.
Oh, maybe that was it. Okay.
Yeah, and so
So that means things like I put down here that Maimonides about altruism. The greatest thing of giving and being altruistic is that the person who receives does not know who gave the gift. So, I mean, these are all in, the old teachings. And anyway, is that what you're talking? Is that what you're saying or are you saying something different?
Well, I would say that. I mean, that has to do with non-attachment. You give because it's in you to give, and because this is an expression of the fullness of being, not because somebody's gonna say thank you or get back to you and say you taught this class and years later it benefited me. Let go of all that. Don't be attached to results of that kind. Do your practice. Stick with your practice. The monks that walked, and they walked in the rain and the snow, and they got to Washington, and their practice didn't end when they got to Washington. They simply paused in their path. And if they had been attached to results, they may have said, well, we're so disappointed. Why do you guys have your phones out? Didn't you get the message by our action? But the idea that you practice, and it may be that you have that satorical moment of I had experience, I can't explain it, but I feel connected with everything. I felt it. I felt it in my body, my being. I've been changed because there's a bigger experience of being than I knew. And it happened. And one of the teachings in the Upanishads and in the sutras, and this idea, it's a Christian idea, are you saved? Do you go to heaven or one with God through works or grace, right? I don't know, maybe none of, I don't know who was raised in traditional practice. And the teachings, as I understand it from yoga, is it's both. You must practice to prepare yourself for the moment of grace. And some people receive that illumination in an instant, and they didn't practice anything. They just say, all of a sudden, I just realized I'm connected to every person, and we're all the same, and their lives change. And other people meditate for their whole lives and never have that experience, but they prepared. So maybe that, Sharon, maybe that is kind of what the idea is, that if you find the principles to be true, and those beliefs illuminate you, these practices will help you stay lit and prepared. You think of the quarterback has to be in position to catch the ball. You prepare yourself to go beyond suffering, to have a bigger experience in your being than what the day-to-day commerce of the world offers. There are a lot of ways to talk about this, which is why I had all these notes that I cut up and rearranged because basically the idea is if you want to know what chocolate tastes like, take a bite. You want to understand yoga, enter into reading the texts, go to a yoga class, see for yourself what the postural work and the breath work do for you. How do they make you feel? And don't give it a one-off. Invest in the practice. Put time into the practice. Join a sangha. You guys have a sangha. This is a yogic group of study and practice. It's yoga. You just call it Unitarianism. I don't mean to minimize Unitarianism. I'm a practicing Quaker, so that's my sangha of practice. Very similar to the Unitarians, except we don't talk. We talk later. But it's such a broad, it is like a wind that can fill your sail, but however big your sail is, and help you stay on a course of generous, optimistic, and compassionate living. And yeah.
I have one question.
Yeah.
A lot of athletics or practices, or there's an idea of success. You do something. Are you a good Unitarian? Are you a good Catholic? Are you a good bicyclist? Whatever. How do you have any tips for being in the practice and not? I know it says don't be concerned about the results, but you wonder, am I doing this correctly? Everyone wonders, am I meditating correctly? Am I doing it right?
Gotcha.
And I think that can be an honest question, but then they're part of it, I think, because of the culture we live in and the prizing of success and being good at something. And I think it veers into that for most people, and then
for me,
is there a sutra or is there a teaching that kind of helps, I don't know, just help you deal with that?
Well, the short answer is yes. And the longer answer is, well, where do you find that sutra, or why would I say, oh, yes? So this idea of, am I successful as a human being, is really what the question is. And if you choose yoga as your navigational, your map, or traditional Christian practice or Unitarian practice by the things that, I looked it up online, I look up everything online. And the Unitarians believe in social justice. They believe in kindness, loving kindness, and I don't know about non-attachment to material things. Don't covet, don't hoard, just really focus on being loving. And that can be then, well, what is that? But when you think, about, I am thinking about your question. It's the best question, really. Like, how do I know I'm successful in my chosen practice? Go back to the basics of the practice. And are you doing those things? Not are you successful, but are you doing them? And if you're practicing, you're successful, because practice is never ending. It does. You don't ever get to got the A+, I'm done. And that really, I think, is the only answer. That we've got our lives, and we're limited, and practice will be over in this iteration one day. So for the time being, in our short time, find the practice that speaks to your heart and follow it, and stick to it. One thing my teacher said was pick and stick. And that had to do with, I'll do Viniyoga for a while, and then I'm going to try Bikram yoga, and then maybe integral yoga. Maybe I'll see what that is. Maybe I'll mix them all up. And that's the postural thing mostly. And he said, never mind all that. That's confusing. Maybe there are 5 different paths, and they're all similar. Pick one and stick to it. Just, so I'm quick. And I'm going to stick with it. But that doesn't eliminate my connection and being part of your sangha while I'm here, or anybody else's experience, because we are all really one expression in all these various forms. And does that help in your sorting that out? That's the way that's the teachings I understand.
Can I just say one thing that I heard that sounds like it fits into this? I was listening to an interview, a young skater in the Olympics. She came to the point when she was very young that she just didn't want to do this practice every day, every day, every day, every day. And she retired at 15 years old, even though she was a stellar Olympian, and she's a skater. I think she may be skating tonight. I'm not sure. But she decided after maybe 5 years or something that she was going to come back, and they interviewed her, and it was such a beautiful interview because she said, I don't really care about the awards. I'm not there to be awarded. I'm there to do what it is I love doing, and if I do the job that I want to do and that I want to set out to do, I will be happy enough. And it's the joy of doing it and what she gets from it, and not the reward that everybody is going for. And you can see they're just so stressed out by the whole thing. They can't even stop falling. And it's just, so if I heard this interview and I said, oh, what a beautiful thing that young woman came to, that she gave something up that she loved and then came back to it in the correct way. So I think that some of this is like doing things in the correct way for you and not for what other people think you should be doing. So
To
that sounds like
manifest
that
what's
to me.
in you. Yeah, that's very yogic, but they call it skating. It's yoga skating. I mean,
Mhm.
really. And thank you for that. I didn't know about that interviewer skater.
It was it was on NPR. I heard it twice, and she was quite remarkable and convincing. And I'm afraid to watch her, but she says for sure it's not the award. But she's already been there. Mhm.
My time is up because you're standing up. And so thank you for letting
Thank
me
you.
kind of ramble a bit in spite of all my preparation to just share what I've learned, basically, and encourage you to, I'll send the readings that are not other people writing about the text that you might look into. And the monthly meditation, as well as my class in Damascus, are free. And if anyone's interested in being on the contact list for the monthly guided meditation, which is online and it's based on Yoga Nidra, a traditional practice, and sponsored by the Quaker meeting I belong to, I invite you. And I'll send that information to Tom.
Please, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
This was great, Liz. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Liz. That was
Thank
great.
you.
Yay. Yay. I just wanna do a little testimony. I have been utilizing breathing things, and I discovered that if I sit on the edge of my couch, like the arm, I'm looking out the window, very cool, in my living room, and there's a table and there's some plants on the table. And the other day, as I was doing my breathing exercises, which is like breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 2 through your nose, and then breathe out through your mouth. Not making a big deal about it, but as I was sitting there, I noticed that the Christmas cactus, when I breathed out, not blowing on it, but just breathing out, was a long branch, and it moved.
Huh.
Every time I gently breathed out, it moves. And so it was one of those experiences, in a way, of really feeling like, oh, wow, my just sitting here was just perfect. I mean, everything was lined up, right? And it was, of course, a piece that is flowering. So it was just so amazing. So I wanted to just share that. And one other thing that I was very, very successful at for a while, my grandmother almost died. I mean, she died at 2 weeks shy of her 99th birthday in 2001. But nonetheless, before that, she had some kind of scare, and I decided, I was really beating myself up about how I should write my grandmother. She lived in California. And so I started this practice where I would make my grandmother a card. And I tried for 2 a week. But it was very interesting because every time I mailed that card, I had the experience of my clock resetting. Right? It didn't matter if I didn't pull off 2. In that moment, the clock reset. So I thought that that was just another experience of the fact that you do, that you can continue to practice and you don't, and like in one sense, every day is kind of like a new beginning, which is very cool. My closing words. Oh, I do want to answer. I wanted to say one more thing, which is there was a man who is a white nationalist, and he's being interviewed for I don't know what position in the government, but he basically said white culture is disappearing. But the interesting thing about white culture, and the Unitarian Universalists have gone into this a little bit, and it's caused really quite a kind of division within within people. But white culture is that perfectionist. White culture is that be on time. That white culture is success. And that white culture is very much, it's all measured by money. So you just need to know that we've been immersed kind of in those judgmental kind of, norms. And we're also, that there's a piece of it. However, closing words. The world worships sound. Talking, sharing, explaining, proving, but the soul speaks another language, stillness. When you stop filling every pause, you discover that silence is an absence, it's presence. It's not space between things, it is space that holds everything. In silence, you meet yourself, not the version that performs, but the one that simply is. Today, give yourself moments of quiet. No phone, no noise, no words. Let the silence wash through you like clear water. It will show you what you've been too busy to see. So thank you, Liz, for telling us about doubt and the importance of yoga. And we will keep that, we will remember that. So we're together again. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have coffee and refreshments, and thank you to everyone who is online, until we meet again.